my name is Stella, and today I will be explaining to you how to work the camera in Infinity Nikki. So as you can see, I'm wearing one of my favorite outfits here. It's a mix of an existing set and some additional elements that I put together, and of course it's completely recolored. And where we are right now on the map, I can show you, it's in Land. And it's in that area, the Titan's Graveyard, which is the really beautiful tree. And I just find it among other locations to be one of the most exciting photo locations in Infinity Nikki. And you can actually capture in Nikki from many different perspectives. So you can position her very closely to some of the other objects here. You can position her on the main path, which is also really beautiful. Or you can actually jump all the way up here. We will have to fight some little S-links to make it up there a little bit more quiet and actually accessible. But that is okay in my opinion, because managing S-links also means we get some more resources. So as you can see, you have these shining particles coming up here. It can be so beautiful even if the camera is set from this side. But okay, let's take a look at how the camera works. So you access Momo's camera by pressing P on the computer. And then you have a bunch of settings that I will go through. One setting, something that gives you very quick access to changing poses, which is really nice. It's this one, or just pressing M in here. I'm gonna do this. And as you can see, she immediately starts posing, which is really nice. And it changes between arrangements that are close-ups or, further away, but either way it's just really cute. Then with the WASD keys we can actually move the camera left, right, up, down. With the left mouse button we move the camera. With the right mouse button we can actually turn Nikki. And then if we go over to the settings, we do have a few different things. We can turn on or off portrait display. We can hide Nikki, which of course not the purpose here. We can hide Momo, which naturally is on, so I leave it mostly on. We can turn on focusing on Nikki, also almost always turn this on. We can adjust focal length. This can also be adjusted by using the scroll wheel on your mouse button. Then we can adjust rotation, which I've so far not found a really good use case for. And we can adjust the aperture, which means, for example, blurring the background a little bit more and really putting Nikki into focus here. Then we can have the grid on. It helps me to find thirds. So here I'm putting her on the first pair of thirds. Then we can turn off or on NPCs, non-playable characters. In this scene obviously does not make a difference because there are none. We can turn on and off collectibles, and the same goes for Eureka, so we can turn them off or we can turn them on. Then we can adjust some of how the imagery comes around. So for example, putting this in vignette mode or out of vignette mode. I usually leave it on how it's set up by default. Soft light intensity, soft light range, like stuff like this, I usually don't play too much with. If I really want to change it, I usually do it outside of Infinity Nikki. It can be really nice to play around with some of these parameters, depending on the shot you really want to get from this. For example, saturation values. And you can always use these little rounded arrows to actually go back to the original default setting. Then we can go to the poses. So the poses are really exciting because poses are collectibles and you will collect more as you progress in the game, which is kind of cool. So for example, this one or this one is really cute. This one is super adorable. This one is too. So you have a lot of static poses. You have a lot of organically moving poses, which is also really nice. Some belong to specific outfits. So for example, this one moves away from the character because it's a back turn, and we can just use our right mouse button to turn Nikki around and make her face the camera again. Let's figure out which is the one that we actually want to use. But also I really like this one. So let's go with this one. Then there are the internal light settings. So there's a differentiation between general lighting, which does stuff like this. hue lighting, which does stuff like this. Maybe something subtle like this could actually do the trick of creating a little bit more of a light interest here. And then there's ambient lighting, which is also really, really pretty. So it makes me almost wonder if this is the right one to go with. Then we have preset filters. Usually not something I much engage with, but it can look really, really cool depending on the style you want to get out of your picture or photo shoot. If you don't want any filter applied, then just double click and you're good. And then you can actually set some of these things up as presets. Alright, I really like this. Now, let's wait until she throws up her pose. And voila! We have a really, really cute picture. Even better though, now I'm gonna turn us and her around to actually face a little bit more of this tree. And we also have the pleasure of having this really nice bird in our camera view now. So maybe something like this could be really cool. And we could take a video. That's, by the way, also a thing. So we can think about what's the starting pose. And makes me wonder if we should set a different pose altogether into this. Maybe something like this. Okay, so usually it's a 10-second clip. Means we need to move not fast, but decently fast. Now it takes a minute to actually digest the video because you will get a really high quality video result, much more than from screen capture per se. And so we can actually take little video frames and clips within the game, which I think is pretty cool. Even when you're outside the game, you have access to the screenshots and the videos you take within the game. Alright, this is how the camera works. There are a few other things. Within the camera you can actually switch outfits. So let's just say I'm tired of my Power Princess outfit and I want to switch over to my Phantom Knight. Then this is how I can do it, quick access mode. And here we go, and we can repeat the full thing again. Then there is U. U enables you to actually create or add modifications to your camera. As you can see, I actually have a lot of upgrade packs still available, but I've already maxed all my levels for lighting, poses and filters. This is where you can collect these different lighting styles, the different poses, the different filters. It's not limited to this area, but it's really worth investing your upgrade packs into getting these done, so you have some more poses and other things available. Then there is K, which refers to the actual home that you can build for Nikki, which I have not yet engaged much with. And then there is J, which is one of my favorite tools of exploration, because sometimes the system will ping you as you're in the middle of exploring Infinity Nikki's world, and it will say, hey, there's actually a space you should photograph. So first of all, you get points for taking these pictures, which by itself is pretty cool, but also it's a kind of like walk through memory lane on different locations you have visited, because some of them will change in making progress through the game. And then there's the B button. The B button will actually lead you to Nikki's album. So also here you can see all your previous screenshots taken, and you can review them and maybe, you know, submit them to styling challenges that Infold Game holds. There's also the automated scrapbook, which is really nice because it tells the story you've lived through. It mostly is composed of cinematic elements, or something that you do not shoot yourself, but as you progress through the story, these images are taken and they're added into here to create somewhat of a memorable journey for you to review. Then there's collage posters, you can make those. And then there's the video album. So as you already saw, these are the ones that we took. There are some that I took the other day. Like this, you can actually build up your own little story or narrative around Infinity Nikki. Enjoy what you do here even more.